Hello and welcome to the Kellogg's GA Cool Camps and Club Assistance workshop with an emphasis on the Child Safeguarding Awareness Programme. Owen Brannock is my name. I'm the Games Development Manager with Waterford GA, and I'm joined on the webinar this evening by Garrod Whalvihill, who's the Child Welfare and Safeguarding Manager, and Michelle Hart, who's the Child Welfare and Safeguarding Officer. And again, if you have any queries or questions in relation to the webinar this evening, you can send an email and we'll have the details of the email later on in the webinar. So what we're hoping to do here in this webinar is to assist Cool Camp and Club Camp assistants to understand what the children achieve by attending the club or Cool Camps, the roles and responsibilities of camp assistants and camp supervisors, the safeguarding and child welfare requirements of all of us. We'll have a little look at the GA Code of Behaviour for underage. We'll discuss what our child safeguarding responsibilities are and what yours are specifically. We look at what you should do if you have a concern. And finally, given the times that we're in, we look at some COVID-specific COVID-19 information that we need to keep in mind. So just to let people know that by registering for this workshop, your contact information may be retained and shared, just to verify that you've attended this workshop. This workshop does not in any way substitute for the attendance at the Child Protection Awareness and Sport Workshop, Safeguarding 1, and that is a 3-hour mandatory workshop for all coaches. And again, further information can be got from your county or club children's officer if you require information on this. And again, just to reiterate that camp assistants must be 16 years or older. And if you're under 18 or age, you are required to furnish parental permission, which permits you to participate in this workshop and to work at your club or your county Cool Camp. So just to throw in the ball, so to speak, we'll just throw a question up here and give people a chance to have a quick look at this and see what you think the answer may be. So the Gaelic Games associations have a joint code of behaviour for underage. And does this apply to A, players who play for minor grade and under, B, managers and coaches who work with players who are under the age of 18, or C, players under the age of 18, their parents, their coaches, their clubs, and their supporters? So have a think about the code of behaviour and where you feel this applies to. And the good news is that whichever one of those you picked, you are correct. It does apply to all of the people mentioned in A, B, and C. However, C is, I suppose, the most correct. It covers the most groups that it applies to. And we're just going to have a little look now at some of the code of behaviour. This is a GA, camogie, ladies football, handball, and rounders code of behaviour. So it is a joint document and it is equally applicable in all of the associations. So it is important to remember that. So whether it's boys or girls or whatever sport they're playing in, this code of behaviour is applicable for everyone. It's available for people to download online on the GA website. So you can just search for it there, and it is available from your club or county coach, children's officer will have information in relation to this. So what it goes through is it goes through what we expect from young players, from coaches, from parents, from clubs, from supporters. And it looks at various different things that people need to do just to make sure that we are all adhering to the code of behaviour and practicing respecting each other and respecting everyone that we're involved with. It gives guidance on away trips, hosting, transport and overnight stays. Talks about general supervision and the coach to child ratios. Looks at the recruitment of coaches and the minimum requirements that are required, such as foundation or introduction to coaching courses, guard vetting, safeguarding 1, etc. It deals with social media, and there is detailed information on social media policies and information related to social media. And then it looks at the disciplinary procedures and the anti-bullying policy statement. And again, there are templates there that clubs can use for their own club websites or club information boards that can be downloaded and can be very useful for clubs. So I suppose what it's about, and again, maybe a couple of questions here. What do we expect from our players? What do we expect from our coaches? And then how should parents behave? So we'll let people think about that for a minute or so. So what are the main points from a player's point of view that you need to practice? What do we expect of our coaches to do? And how should parents behave both on the sideline and before and after matches and in their interactions in the club? So I suppose from a player's point of view, players should respect each other, respect the coaches, the referee, the opposition, play within the rules, do not try to cheat, and win and lose in what could be described as a graceful manner. So we can be a gracious victor or a gracious loser, depending on the result of the match, but that we do both equally and that we try and play the game in the spirit that is intended to be played. From a coach's point of view, we've already outlined the minimum qualifications that all coaches need to have. Coaches need to be realistic in what they expect of their players, and they need to take into account the age and the development level of the players that they have, be it a school team, a club team, underage team, or development squad, etc. We need to be fair to everybody, give everybody who's involved in the team an equal opportunity to play, to be part of training, to be part of the team. And remember that coaches are role models for the children and role models for the parents and who are on the sideline. So we need to behave as such. And that was equally applicable in the cool camps, whether we're a camp assistant or a supervisor. We are a role model to the children who are attending the camp, and we need to equally behave in this equally good behavior at the camps. And from a parent's point of view, we would hope that parents would encourage their children to be active, to participate in our national games, to enjoy the games, to respect the coaches, to respect the referee, the opposition, play the game to the best of their ability, and to try and develop themselves and their sense of identity and their sense of belonging to their club as they go through the different ages. And we would encourage parents at all times should be encouraged to be at matches, to support, but in an appropriate manner. So I suppose moving on then to the camps, the club camps and the cool camps. Why do children attend our camps? And I suppose from research and from asking children and from asking them why they like to be there, the main reasons are to learn skills, to make new friends, particularly during the summer and particularly maybe now at the time where people haven't seen their friends in a long time. It's great to be back out at the camp, to be part of a group, again referencing the previous point, experience the excitement, to have lots of action, to face challenges. So to face the challenges of developing their skills, of becoming a better player, and to have enjoy it and to have fun. I suppose maybe any other reasons, maybe that they're looking to model themselves on a county player who they look up to in whatever your county stars are in your own county, that players are looking to see can they do the tricks and the skills that these players can do. And it is important, particularly for the cool camps and the club camps, to remember that not all children are members of the club who attend camps. So there may be children who don't play Gaelic games very much or don't play very often and aren't members. So it's important that we can give a very positive experience to those children who are attending the camps, so that if it is their first experience, that they are likely to go home and ask mum or dad, can they come down and can they go join the local club? And from a camp or a cool camp point of view, that's really a fantastic legacy for the camp, that we have children who weren't previously in the club coming down to the club to join the club at the end of the summer or when they go back to school. So from our point of view, these are the things that we need to make sure that every child gets, and they need to get an equal amount of all of these. Fair play, fun, it needs to be safe, bearing in mind that we are playing contact games, but it needs to be in a safe environment. Respect from the player to the coaches, from the coaches to the players, and from the players amongst themselves. And some coaching in developing their skills of the games. And like I said, it needs to be done in an equal amount. If you think of a plant that needs to grow or to flourish, it needs air, it needs heat, and it needs water, amongst other things, and food. We need our children to get these things in equal amount, and more of one will not necessarily compensate for less of another. So when we're planning our camp program, so we are the club camp coach or the cool camp coach, camp assistant, you need to plan your program and you need to make sure that that's reflected in it. And if you're in a supervisory role, again, you need to ensure that what's going out on the field is making sure that the children who are at the camps are getting to experience all of these things. So just some basic information from the camps. The Kellogg's GAA Cool Camps are 5-day camps, which are run generally from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with obviously some breaks for rest and for lunch. Club camps may vary in their times or their duration, but they would largely go on the same principle. All the camps, again, the cool camps are for boys and girls aged 6 to 13 unless otherwise stated, and club camps would run along similar model. And where possible, all camps would involve all codes: football, ladies football, hurling, camogie, handball, rounders. So there would be a little bit of everything in the mix. And again, this is important at the cool camp and important at the club camp, that we give the children an opportunity to play as many of the different games as they can and to develop their skills as best they can. So I suppose from the child's point of view, they're looking at all the people and saying who's who at the camp. Well, I suppose there's 4 people that they need to look at before we get to themselves. So the camp coordinator, or the head coach, the person who's in charge of the camp. That may be a GDA or a member of the games development staff at a cool camp. It may be someone who's employed on a part-time basis, or in a club setting, it might be the club coaching officer or the volunteer coach who is the camp coordinator. Camp coaches then, or the team of coaches, may be anything from 5 to 12 or 15, depending on whether you have a small camp or big numbers at a camp, who oversees and plans all the coaching at the camp, working with small groups, again, in line with the appropriate child to coach ratios. A camp assistant is not a coach, but they do help at the coaching sessions. They help with the games, with refereeing, with breaks, with stewarding, with registration, etc. Camp assistants must be vetted, have to attend this workshop, which you're obviously doing, and must treat everybody equally in respect, no more than the camp coaches. And then the role of the camp supervisor is a person who's not a coach, but a person may be appointed to assist in the normal supervision duties, which might include access and entry to the club grounds, registration, roll call, dressing room duties, etc. And this might be generally a person in the club who might have volunteered their time to assist at the club camp or at the cool camp. They must be an adult. They may or may not be a parent, but they must be vetted and they must have attended workshops to ensure that they're up to speed with all the requirements of them. And I suppose last, but by no means least, actually the most important group is the children who attend the camp each day. The 50 or 60 or 150 and 160 children that you have at your camp, they're the most important people. But we need to make sure that we can maintain the standards that we have set for ourselves for all of these. So let's look at our role. So what's my role as a camp assistant? And we'll have a look a little bit more about this role and what has to be done in relation to it. And obviously you'll get some more details from your county coordinator if it's a cool camp assistant that you're working as at the training days and prior to camps with some online and face-to-face workshops. And again, if it's in a club setting, there will be some pre-camp training or some pre-camp information sessions for people. So I suppose at the cool camps and the club camps, it doesn't matter which one it is, you're required to assist the coach, to referee some small-sided games, to display your skills, so your coaching skills, your interaction skills, your communication skills with children. Look out for misbehaviour and make sure that everybody is behaving appropriately. Report to the coach if there are issues that need to be dealt with. Set up the pitches for the games and the skills, so the pitch area where you have your cone set up or your goal post laid out or your slalom post, whatever it may be. And again, make sure that everybody's treated equally. We don't have favourites. And again, from a safeguarding child welfare point of view, we make sure that at no times we are left alone with a child. This is not something that we can allow to happen. So what we require of the coaches, so the coaches who are over 18 must be vetted, must have attended the Child Protection Awareness workshop we mentioned earlier, and must have a coaching qualification. The Introduction to Gaelic Games course, which is being launched soon, Foundation and Award 1 and Award 2 at GAA Camogie or Ladies Football. And obviously must operate with a high degree of confidentiality and an equally high degree of integrity when they're dealing with children, with parents, with adults, with coaches. Cool camp or club camp assistants must be vetted, must be 16 years plus with the parental permission, must at a minimum attend this workshop, and must have the ability to show the basic playing skills to the children during the camp. So like we were saying earlier, the ability to coach children in the basic skills, the row lift, the jab lift, the solo, the high catch, striking, etc., etc. So having a good knowledge of the game and being able to transfer that to the children. And again, no more than the coaches, a camp assistant or a pool camp assistant must operate with a high degree of confidentiality and an equally high degree of integrity. So we're just going to look at a number of scenarios over the next couple of minutes and decide which ones you feel are the most appropriate for you, or which ones you feel may be suitable for the coordinator or head coach. So we'll just look at the first one. You're a male camp assistant and a boy who's 6 years of age tells you he wants to go to the toilet. So there's 4 things here, 4 statements. And so just have a think through these for the next few minutes. See what you think is the most suitable way to do it. Okay, so it is you and another camp assistant accompany the boy to the toilet and back. You bring the boy to the toilet yourself and back, accompanied by another boy from the group. You bring them to the coordinator who makes the arrangements, or you ask if others need to go to the toilet and you bring them back, bring them to the group as a group to the toilet and back. So have a think about this. Put yourself in the position where you're the camp assistant with a group, and this is a scenario that's highly likely to happen once or twice a day, particularly with the smaller age groups, the 6, 7, 8-year-old groups. Okay, so you do it with a camp assistant, with the boy and another boy, through the club coordinator, or maybe you arrange a toilet break for everybody. So I suppose the correct procedure is, all of these are the correct procedure. Okay, you and another camp assistant accompany the boy to the toilet and back. Again, ensuring you don't delay on the way to the toilet or back to the toilet. So get to the toilet, get back as quick as you can, because the boy is going to want to be back in the activities. Bring the boy there and back, accompanied by at least one other boy from the group. Bring the camp coordinator, who can make suitable arrangements to have the boy brought to the toilet, again with another boy or with another camp assistant or coach. And then maybe arrange for a toilet break for everybody, and you bring them as a group. And we had a question in here in relation to what happens if it's a girl player and a girl camp assistant. So best practice from a child welfare safeguarding point of view would be that a female coach goes with a female player with a girl, and a male coach goes with a boy. So again, in your setting, whether it's at the pool camp or the club camp, you will obviously try to ensure this happens as best you can, and you will work with your club camp coordinator to make sure that you can keep these arrangements in place. So we move on to our next scenario. So you notice that 2 11-year-olds regularly slag off a 9-year-old in their group. They call the 9-year-old hurtful names, and a number of them listed there, all done in a kind of a sneaky way that very few people can notice or hear. So there are 6 different things that you may do. So I'd like you to have a look at those and see what do you think you could do in your role as the camp assistant, or if you see this in the role as a supervisor. And maybe then, is there some of them that you might feel that maybe these aren't specifically for me to do, that you might feel more comfortable with the camp coordinator, head coach person doing these specific jobs. So again, give people a minute or so to have a look through that and see how things are going. So again, it's a 9-year-old being slagged off by 2 11-year-olds, a lot of hurtful names, and being done in a kind of a discreet, sneaky way where it's very difficult for the coach or the other children or the other adults who might be there to notice or to see or hear what's going on. So again, I suppose from the camp assistant point of view, the first 3 are the 3 that you would certainly do. So you speak to the 9-year-old, the child who's being slagged, and see how they are. Make a note of what happened and report it to the camp coordinator, and monitor the situation for the duration of the camp or the duration of the rest of that day, depending on how long you will have the group. However, it is important that you also ensure that the matter is recorded in the incident and accident book, which may be done by the camp coordinator head coach. And And in regarding to intervening at an appropriate time, that's really for an adult, somebody who's over the age of 18 to do. Again, have an appropriate time, have a discussion with the group, and remind them about the GA Give Respect, Get Respect protocol, which we spoken on earlier, where everybody gives and gets respect to each other, and that we do things in a nice, respectful way. And again, the head coach coordinator will be the person who will inform the parents of the 2 11-year-olds and of the 9-year-old when they arrive to collect their children. So parent, grandparent, guardian comes to collect them. It is important that the parents of all 3 of those children are informed what happened. You will have passed on your message and report to the camp coordinator, and then they will deal with it from there. Okay, so our third scenario is a 7-year-old boy is chasing after a 6-year-old girl at break time. Both of them are in your group. The girl falls, and as she tries to run away, the boy grabs at her and pulls down her shorts, and the other children in the group who are there laugh. From your view, you don't have any idea whether it was intentional act or not. So again, there are a number of different things that may or may not be done. So have a read through of these, see which you think is the most appropriate for yourself to do. So again, as a female camp assistant goes to the girl, checks she's okay. At an appropriate time, speak to the group about the Respect Initiative and the dangers of chasing others around the camp and what may happen in accidents. Make a record of the incident and inform the camp coordinator or the coach in charge, and that they may be able to inform parents of both children, and monitor the behaviour of the children and report any subsequent concerns you have to the camp coordinator. So do you feel as a cool camp or a club camp assistant that you can deal with all of these, or are there some of them that may need to be dealt with by the camp coordinator or the person in charge? So I suppose moving on then to see, we've highlighted A, C, and D. That you as the camp assistant, or a female camp assistant if you're a male one, goes to the 6-year-old girl, checks how they are, makes sure they're okay, and at an appropriate time, maybe a few minutes rest or a few minutes to gather themselves, brings the child back to the group. Certainly you would do C, make a record of the incident and inform the camp coordinator or the coach in charge at an appropriate time, so that they may then deal with the parents and inform the parents if and when the parents come to collect the child. And monitor the boy and girl's behaviours and observe what's going on. And if you have any additional concerns, report them to the camp coordinator or coach at the end of the day. And again, no more than in the previous example. Part B is the role of the head coach or an adult supervisor, who would be the person who would liaise with and deal with the group from speaking to them about the Respect Initiative and the dangers of chasing others around the camp. These will be outlined to the children at the start of the week, about having the ground rules or the guidelines, about activities and making sure we don't cause accidents, but also about the Respect Initiative. And then it will be the responsibility of all the coaches to ensure that these things are implemented and maintained during the week of the camp. So, from a point of view of if we have a concern about a child, okay, this is something that's critical that we're aware of this, and that no matter what your role is at the camp, this applies to all of us. So the camp coaches and the camp coordinators will have attended the safeguarding training. The club will have a children's officer and a designated liaison person, so whether it's a cool camp or a club camp, and they can deal with and will be well versed in dealing with child safeguarding matters and the protocols that need to be taken into account. But if you notice serious behaviour or you believe a child has been harmed, or they tell you they've been harmed, you need to report this immediately to any of the above. So to the camp coach, to the camp coordinator, or if the children's officer or DLP happens to be there, to that person. And again, if you have any general concerns about children in your camp, a child or children in your group, and about their behaviour towards others, this should be immediately discussed with your coach and the camp coordinator as appropriate. And if it's deemed appropriate, then it needs to be reported on to the club children's officer or the DLP, or to both, as is seen fit. And again, the camp coordinator would have experience in this and would have received some training in this in the safeguarding training, and will be able to assist with this and make the appropriate and correct decision in relation to it. So just to look at bullying from a point of view of a definition, it's defined as repeated aggression, which can be verbal, psychological, or physical. It can be conducted by an individual or a group against others, so against other individuals or against groups. It is really important to note that incidents of bullying are regarded as serious breaches of our code of behaviour, and they're not acceptable and must be treated as such. And again, going back to our previous slide, if this happens, action needs to be taken, reporting to the camp coordinator, and they will deal with the issue in an appropriate fashion. So just to move on to some COVID-specific information, that's some additional information given the times that we're in, and it is the topic of the week or the topic of the year, really. All people need to, who are attending the camp, so you in your role as a camp assistant or camp supervisor, need to complete the GAE COVID-19 education module, and again on the GAE Learning portal, that's available for people to do. And it is advisable that when you do it, you screenshot your copy of your certificate and you send that to your camp coordinator or your county games manager for cool camps, or the club coordinator if it's a club camp, just so that they know that you have that completed. Again, complete the health questionnaire, which is on the Safe Return to Gaelic Games. Many of you already have it done, as you're already playing with your local club, thankfully back playing with the club. And again, you provide that to the camp COVID supervisor. In a cool camp, the COVID supervisor is the camp coordinator head coach. In the club camp, it may be the camp coordinator, or it may be someone who's specifically assigned to that role. If it happens during the camp that you feel unwell, do not attend the camp at any stage if you or any members of your house are unwell and display the symptoms consistent with COVID-19. Don't assist in a session if a child doesn't have the required equipment, so mouth guards, furlies and helmets. And again, these can't be shared this year given the current situation, so children will be reminded and will be well aware that they need to provide these themselves. Assist is required in ensuring that you and all the camp personnel fully adhere to the Gaelic Games COVID-19 safety requirements. So submitting the health questionnaires, regular sanitisation of your own hands, of the areas you're working in, of the equipment, the slitters, the footballs, the cones, etc. And report any failures to observe these requirements to the relevant COVID supervisor, who we've outlined may be the camp coordinator or maybe a different person. But it is particularly important that we do make sure that all of those things are taken into account given the times that we're in at the moment. So again, we've mentioned the Give Respect, Get Respect program a couple of times on a few slides. So it applies to coaches, referees, parents, guardians, supporters, players. And again, if you can see on the poster here, it gives maybe a few points on what different groups should do. So the players, again, we've mentioned this: respect your opponent, play by the rules. The club and the county have a responsibility to make sure that players, coaches, spectators give and get respect from each other. Coaches need to lead by example, treat everybody equally, be a role model. The referees apply the rules of the game impartially and in a fair manner and get the respect of everybody. And parents, guardians and supporters should show approval for how the game is played and not criticise officials or your own team or opposition players or coaches. At all times, we need to say no to racism. We need to be disability aware, so we need to make sure that if a child has an additional need or additional requirement and needs some assistance, that we can give that assistance in a kind, respectful manner, including the child in the activities. And encourage all the camp participants at the cool camps and the club camps to respect each other and their coaches, and ensure that we can all say at the end of every week that we have given respect and got respect from everybody. So just in summary, we need to know our role, and we need to check in at all times with our coach and our coordinator. To be on time, be properly dressed, to be vigilant. So be it the club jersey or the cool camp coach's top if it's a cool camp. We need to remember that accidents don't happen, they're caused, okay, and they can be caused by horseplay by us or by not exercising caution with us. And this equally applies to camps as it does to general activities. So avoid any horseplay. We can have lots of fun, but we need to exercise caution, make sure the children are safe. Don't allow for a child to be left out of the group or to be isolated on their own. And again, following on from that, watch on from the small gangs or individuals who may be bullying others, and keep an eye out for that. Be a peer model and behave as such. So children will look to us for guidance. So we need to behave in an appropriate manner. Don't have favourites at the camp, and do not be alone with the child. If an incident or accident occurs, apart from the appropriate intervention that you need to do, report this immediately to whoever's in charge, the camp coordinator or the coach. Note it as well, and please ensure that it is recorded in the camp incident and accident book. So if you know if an incident or accident occurs, make sure you note it, pass it on straight away. But certainly worth while checking back with the camp coordinator later on the day, have they had a chance to record it in the incident and accident book? They may have got called away for another issue, for kit swap or equipment or that, and may not have got it done. So you as the coach or camp assistant can remind them to make sure that that is done. Enjoy the experience, and by you enjoying the experience of being a camp or a cool camp assistant, you will help others to enjoy the camp as well. So if everybody can get to Friday having a smile on their face, it'll mean that everybody's had a great week. And again, given the current situation that we're in, adhere to the COVID-19 regulations, the current social distancing requirements, whatever they may be, and any other COVID-19 regulations that are set out by the GAA and set out in relation to camps and activities. Just a sheet here that you might consider writing down in your notebook, or maybe in the back of one of your session planners, is to get the contact details for the club children's officer, club designated liaison person, and the camp coordinator, the person who's in charge of your camp. Well worthwhile having those details, so that if something does happen, which we hope it won't, and it'll be very minimal, but that you know where you can go, you know where you can go to get assistance, to get some guidance, to get some advice, and to report on matters that may need to be reported. So those three people's details would be well worth having their name and telephone number written down somewhere in your information pack. And Shin, we are at the end of our webinar for Cool Camp and Club Camp Assistants. Hopefully, those of you who are in the roles will get to be in those roles of the people on the picture and have lots of children running around and having lots of fun and smiles on their faces. And if you have any further questions or queries, please email Garode and Michelle on safeguardingonline@gaa.ie, and Garode and Michelle will be more than happy to answer any queries you may have in relation to your role as a club camp or cool camp assistant, and any questions or queries you may have in relation to child safeguarding awareness. So Shin, Thank you very much.